Today, we begin the poignant journey of Ethan, a young boy whose life was marred by pain, silence, and the relentless struggle for self-identity within the confines of family. As we delve into Ethan's story, we will uncover the layers of emotional turmoil surrounding him, highlighting the stark contrast between him and his younger brother Leo, as well as the often dismissive attitudes of their parents. This is a tale of reclamation, resilience, and ultimately redemption. Ethan came into the world quietly, cherished yet overshadowed by the vibrant presence of his younger brother Leo. While Ethan was the deep thinker, the silent artist forever lost in his sketchbook, Leo was the golden boy, an athlete whose charisma illuminated any room he entered. Leo's rebellious streak earned him admiration, not just from peers who cheered him on at every game, but also from their parents who praised him for his talents. Conversely, Ethan often felt invisible, yearning for recognition that always seemed just out of reach. Eleanor, their mother, epitomized the archetypal homemaker, meticulous and focused on presenting the perfect family image. Her prioritization of appearances often blinded her to Ethan's inner struggles. He would come to her with his sketches, wanting validation, longing for her pride, but instead found only indifference. "You are just too sensitive," she would say dismissively, as she turned her attention back to Leo, who was busy with his latest athletic triumph. Her unwavering devotion to maintaining an ideal family portrait inadvertently deepened Ethan's feelings of insignificance. Meanwhile, Richard, their father, a stoic corporate lawyer, was consumed by ambition, often prioritizing work over family. In the quiet of their home, messages of love and support were increasingly drowned out by long hours and high expectations. Richard's emotional distance reinforced Ethan's belief that he was somehow unworthy of attention or affection. Leo, in his boisterous glory, thrived in their father's gaze, while Ethan felt more and more like a footnote in the family story. As the years rolled on, an insidious pattern of sibling rivalry emerged, marked by a series of increasingly cruel acts from Leo towards Ethan. These were not innocent childhood antics, but deliberate actions designed to undermine Ethan's self-worth. Leo would sabotage Ethan's intricate model airplanes, pulling them apart just when they were ready to take flight. He found pleasure in ridiculing Ethan's shyness in front of friends, drawing laughter from their peers at Ethan's expense. There were moments when Ethan could almost taste the salt of his tears, as Leo stole his cherished comic books, selling them off at school while laughing at Ethan's helplessness. The emotional wounds inflicted were deep, yet their mother continued to dismiss them under the guise of boys will be boys. For Ethan, this was not sibling rivalry, it was mental and emotional warfare. The moments that stood out the most, however, were when Leo's cruelty cut the deepest. During a season of severe anxiety for Ethan, Leo taunted him darkly, suggesting he should just disappear forever. Although Leo's words were light-hearted on the surface, they lodged like arrows in Ethan's heart and mind, echoing long after. Each dismissal from Eleanor seemed to fuel Leo's antics, an affirmation of his belief that he could act as he wished without consequence. Caught in a cycle of emotional neglect and cruelty, Ethan felt invisible and unheard, navigating a world that seemed to favor strength over sensitivity, smiles over sorrow. His artistic heart, once bursting with color and imagination, began to dim under the weight of constant belittlement. Yet the art remained a lifeline. Each pencil stroke became a way to express the turmoil inside, a safe haven amidst chaos. Throughout this turbulent chapter of his life, Ethan's journey was only beginning, and it would take a series of events to illuminate the path toward his own redemption. Unbeknownst to him, change was on the horizon, a catalyst that would eventually compel even Richard, the distant father, to confront his own inaction and become a beacon for the son he had overlooked for far too long. This path towards healing would not be easy, but it would offer Ethan a chance to reclaim his narrative, one marked not by shadows but by resilience, growth, and ultimately self-assertion. As we transition into the next phase of Ethan's life, let us remain mindful of the deep wounds woven through his childhood, guiding him on a journey from silence to self-empowerment, forging a connection with the artist within, as he learns to reclaim his voice and define his identity against the backdrop of familial chaos. In the formative years of Ethan's life, the idyllic facade of wholesome family dynamics began to show cracks. The incessant conflict between brothers became all too apparent. The relationship between Ethan and Leo spiraled from sibling rivalry into something much darker, revealing layers of cruelty and neglect that would shape Ethan's identity in profound and painful ways. Ethan, the quiet observer and artistic spirit, often found solace in his sketchbook, capturing the world around him in intricate detail. Yet, while he created his miniature worlds on paper, his older brother Leo turned their home into a battleground. Leo, the family's golden boy, basked in the limelight of parental approval. This attention only sharpened the edge of his jealousy towards Ethan, who, despite being overlooked, held talents that could rival his own if only given the chance. It was in these tender moments of creativity that Ethan truly longed for acknowledgement, craving the validation that always eluded him. Instead, Leo took to tormenting Ethan in ways that were deceptively playful yet deeply damaging. The small acts of sabotage began innocently enough, a torn page from a treasured sketchbook here, a dare to climb higher than Ethan could manage there. But over time, these seemingly childish antics morphed into a cruel game that brutalized Ethan's spirit and sense of self-worth. The brother who once shared a playful hug after a day with their father had unknowingly given way to a tyrant, wielding their childhood attachment as a weapon against Ethan's fragile self-esteem. The breaking point for Ethan came when Leo, perhaps spurred on by resentment or a desperate need for validation, escalated the game significantly. Deprivation of an identity is one of the most toxic dynamics that can arise between siblings, and Leo embodied this behavior perfectly. He was gleeful as he ripped apart Ethan's intricately crafted model airplanes, his laughter a sharp sting in the face of Ethan's silent shock. The sting transformed into sorrow, and sorrow quickly turned into a well of frustration that Ethan was left to drown within. At school, the torment continued, spilling over from home into the playground. Leo thrived as the popular athlete, yet he took pleasure in belittling Ethan in front of their peers. His mockery of Ethan's introverted nature became a twisted form of entertainment, a way to bolster his already inflated ego by striking down the very essence of the sensitive boy he called his brother. The hallways echoed with Leo's derisive laughter as he ridiculed Ethan's worn-out clothes, his unkempt hair, and his shy demeanor. Instead of offering comfort, their mother Eleanor merely brushed off these incidents as mere boys being boys, affirming Leo's behavior while leaving Ethan feeling trapped, voiceless in a world where compassion was sorely lacking. In those years, every comic book Ethan had loved and painstakingly collected was reduced to nothing more than a mere plaything for Leo. When Leo sold Ethan's treasured comic collection, selling them off for a scant few dollars, only to mock Ethan's grief, it became painfully clear this was not the rivalry of childhood. It was a calculated undermining of Ethan's very being. Each loss tore at Ethan's fragile sense of self, further driving wedges between his already splintered spirit and engendering feelings of abandonment and betrayal. Yet even as these moments piled up, their mother remained steadfast in her unyielding dismissal. "You are just too sensitive, Ethan," she would often repeat, echoing the familiar refrain, while emphasizing a troubling belief that feelings were a weakness. With every word, Eleanor unknowingly bestowed upon Leo unbridled permission to tear Ethan down further, reinforcing Ethan's growing perception that his emotions and experiences were invalid and unworthy of concern. Rather than offering him a refuge, she allowed the torment to fester unchecked, all under the guise of promoting familial harmony. In the icy grip of emotional neglect, Ethan found himself drifting through the corridors of his life, a swirling mass of heartache and confusion. His art became a sanctuary, a rendering of the world that he wished was full of love and acceptance. It was where he could express the turmoil racing within him, each pencil stroke a silent cry for help amid his desperate solitude. As he poured his heart onto the pages, the world outside felt like a relentless storm, striking at his fragile psyche in waves of despair. While their mother turned a blind eye to the chaos, Richard, their father, continued to bury himself in work, unaware of the family dynamics unraveling at home. The emotional distance was further exacerbated by his unwavering commitment to his career, rendering him incapable of acknowledging the hellish atmosphere Ethan was enduring. Richard's attempts to be a father, though well-intentioned, amounted to little more than a passive role in a plot that had spiraled beyond his control. However, even in the shadow of collateral damage, the potential for change loomed just beyond the horizon. Unbeknownst to Ethan, The painful cycle of his life was approaching an inflection point, where the price of silence and negligence would soon reveal itself, an awakening that would shift not only his destiny, but alter the course of his family forever. With growing determination, Ethan prepared to enter a new chapter, one where he would ultimately begin to reclaim his voice, standing firm against a tide of adversity. His journey was fraught with trials, but the whispers of empowerment beckoned him onward, urging him to rise from the ashes of neglect into the light of possibility. In the tumultuous landscape of Ethan's existence, despair and resignation had become unwelcome friends. In the walls of his childhood home, darkness thrived as the confrontations escalated, creating an environment where love seemed eclipsed by relentless cruelty. Yet the turning point was fast approaching, one that would challenge the fragile alliances and unyielding dynamics between the members of this troubled family. The relationship between the two brothers reached its breaking point. One fateful afternoon, a moment etched in Ethan's memory with painful clarity, an argument ignited over a fleeting misunderstanding, a simple disagreement that spiraled out of control. In his blind rage, Leo unleashed his wrath upon Ethan, not just emotionally but physically. In an act of violence that signified a loss of humanity, Leo intentionally deleted years of Ethan's digital artwork and research files, work that was critical for an upcoming art school scholarship application. The sheer devastation of this betrayal pierced through the remnants of Ethan's already fragile spirit. The artwork that had been his refuge, his escape from a harsh reality, was gone in seconds, buried beneath Leo's vindictive glee, and as a final act of humiliation, he physically shoved Ethan down a flight of stairs, the weight of the world crashing around him as Ethan tumbled, smacked to the ground, and felt the sharp sting of pain reverberate through his wrist, the fracture a tangible symbol of the emotional wreckage surrounding him. The moment did not go unnoticed. Richard, their father, returned home to the chaos, his typical stoic facade shattered by the reality unfolding before him. He found Ethan sprawled on the floor, cradling his injured wrist, a torrent of confusion and sorrow washing over him. His eyes fell upon the shattered remnants of Ethan's creativity, scattered digitally across the room. He finally grasped the truth that had lain dormant in the shadows of their home. These were not mere sibling squabbles, but malicious acts steeped in cruelty and neglect. Anger surged through Richard as he confronted Leo with an unprecedented fury, a long overdue awakening to a world he had purposely ignored. "You will not treat your brother this way," Richard roared, his voice echoing with newfound authority. "This is not the behavior we accept in this family." The emotional distance he had crafted over the years cracked, splintering in the wake of Ethan's visible devastation. Richard set forth a grave consequence, threatening to sever financial support unless Leo recognized the depth of his actions and sought a change in his behavior. It was a pivotal moment, not just for Ethan but for the dynamics of the entire family. Perhaps for the first time, Richard was becoming the father Ethan so desperately needed, a protector rather than a passive observer. For Ethan, the confrontation was both liberating and terrifying. A flicker of hope ignited within him, urging him to shed the weight of a silence enforced by neglect and to finally claim his narrative, his worth. Richard began, however, tentatively, to invest time into Ethan's development, taking an interest in his artistic passion. He shared stories of his own battles, recalling the times he had been bullied at school, drawing a parallel that was meant to bridge the distance between father and son. This act of humility was a balm on Ethan's aching heart, revealing the vulnerability beneath Richard's stoic demeanor. Moreover, Richard enrolled Ethan in a mentorship program with a renowned architect. This was not merely a logistical gesture. It was a lifeline, a chance for Ethan to transform his pain into purpose. Under the guidance of someone who recognized his talent, Ethan flourished. What had once been a hidden passion became a source of immense pride. Feeling the nurturing support of his father and mentor, he began to articulate his needs with clarity and confidence, dismantling the psychological hold Leo had held over him for so long. With each passing day, Ethan found the courage to expose the manipulative tactics Leo employed, slowly revealing them to others. His academic performance surged. His art flourished. Ethan evolved from a silent victim to an empowered young man, standing resolutely against the remnants of a brother who had deeply scarred his childhood. The rift created by Leo's actions began to heal, though unseen scars remained, embodying the resilience that blossomed in spite of the pain. Ethan learned to express boundaries, a complex, profound realization that he could assert control over parts of his life that had long felt dictated by his brother's malice. As he crafted intricate architectural designs, he was not just building structures in the physical realm, but crafting the foundation of a future rooted in self-assertion and independence. The chaotic cacophony of his past began to fade into a new melody, one heralding growth, determination, and the undying belief that redemption was attainable. The prospect of change shimmered on the horizon. Insecurities began to dissolve as the foundation of a new identity emerged. As he navigated through this newfound empowerment, Ethan resolved to modify his own narrative, reclaiming the paintbrush of his destiny and initiating a journey towards self-discovery. As he stood on the threshold of a new chapter, the familiar whispers of his past echoed gently, reminding him of where he had come from, while urging him onward, a relentless push to embrace a future crafted not by the hands of others, but forged in the flames of his own aspirations. Ethan stood at the precipice of change, his heart pounding with exhilaration and trepidation. The scholarship offered to the prestigious architecture program on the opposite coast had arrived after years of tireless work. It felt almost surreal, a validation of every late night spent sketching and dreaming, every moment when he had chosen to believe in his art amidst the shadows of his brother's malice. The weight of Leo's destructive influence began to lift, replaced by the intoxicating taste of newfound freedom. Packing his belongings, Ethan found solace in the silence of his childhood room, once rife with contention and reminders of emotional wounds. As he folded each piece of clothing, he reflected on the years marked by neglect and cruelty. Yet within that reflection blossomed a burgeoning sense of hope, a recognition that he was not destined to repeat the cycle of pain that had quelled his spirit for so long. He was stepping away not merely from his family home, but from a narrative of victimhood. This was his opportunity to rewrite the story. The campus greeted him with open arms and uncharted possibilities. The architecture program became Ethan's sanctuary, a sacred space where lines and designs converged into breathtaking forms that reflected his inner world. He thrived within the creative whirlwind, his confidence blossoming among like-minded individuals who incidentally reinforced the belief that overcoming trauma was a collaborative effort. His professors, witnessing his talent, nurtured both his skills and his burgeoning self-worth. Amidst the growth, he met Olivia, a radiant soul with a passion for environmental activism that ignited a spark in Ethan. She embodied the courage to envision a better world, effortlessly awakening a shift within him. Their connection unfolded through shared values and a mutual thirst for knowledge. Late-night conversations turned into debates about sustainable building practices. Long walks through the campus garden became hours filled with laughter, and art transformed into their playful language of love. As the years unfolded, the couple established a life brimming with laughter, creativity, and partnership. Ethan poured himself into his architectural designs, fusing sustainability with innovative aesthetics, while Olivia channeled her activism into community projects advocating for ecological awareness. Together, they forged a partnership fueled by ambition and shared dreams, the foundation of which solidified with the arrival of their son, Caleb. That small ceremony in their backyard, draped in fairy lights under a starlit sky, marked the culmination of their journey from distant strangers to united allies. Their wedding was more than a social contract. It symbolized a promise to nurture one another and build a future steeped in love and understanding. As they exchanged their vows, Ethan's heart swelled with emotion, a profound reminder that hope reaffirmed the notion that he deserved a life fashioned by choice rather than inherited suffering. The years sped by, intertwining their lives with unyielding passion and commitment. Caleb burst into their lives, a beautiful embodiment of love, hope, and vulnerability. Parenthood finessed Ethan's perspective, further illustrating the essence of resilience as he sought to cultivate an environment for his son that was starkly different from the one he had known. Each laugh, each cry from Caleb inspired a commitment to fostering a safe space, allowing him the freedom to explore, imagine, and grow beyond the fears of what betrayal could do. However, echoes from Ethan's past cast shadows in the corners of his mind. He had built walls against the pain but never entirely exorcised the specters of Leo's actions. Thoughts of his brother lingered like a ghost at a banquet, reminding him of the toxic dynamic he had fought so hard to escape. Despite his efforts, a small flicker of unease gnawed at him, uneasiness nestled within the context of his burgeoning family. What would happen if Leo decided to intervene? Nevertheless, Ethan remained grounded in the present, focusing on nurturing the family he and Olivia had endeavored to create. With every intentional boundary established, every moment spent exploring ideas and nurturing creativity with Caleb, he cemented both his worth and the purity of his intentions. Beyond designing intriguing structures, Ethan began constructing a legacy defined by understanding and compassion that would echo in Caleb's life long after he forged his own path. As they strolled through their neighborhood, hand in hand, Olivia pleasant while being pregnant with their second child, Ethan couldn't help but feel the tides of change coursing through him. They shared hopes of raising children grounded in empathy and respect for themselves and others, the very antidote to the toxicity that marked Ethan's upbringing. He was determined to ensure that Caleb's experiences would not parallel his own, bringing forth a reinvigorating legacy, transcending pain. With every passing day, Ethan carved a niche for himself, not just in the architecture he designed, but in the family he cherished. Yet the specter of his brother, now cloaked in uncertainty, would soon come knocking, testing the very foundations he was attempting to build. But as of now, in this moment of serenity, Ethan chosen to dwell in the present, ready to embrace whatever the future would unveil, a tapestry woven not of familial betrayal, but of resilience, love, and the promise of redemption awaited. Ethan's heart raced as he faced the undeniable reality of betrayal, confusion swirling like a tempest around him. The investigator's report lay on the kitchen table, filled with stark images and painfully stark truths that delivered a gutting blow to the life he had meticulously built. It was as if the ground beneath him had crumbled, revealing a chasm of secrets, lies, and an unthinkable connection. How could Olivia, the woman he loved, the mother of their son, be entwined with Leo, his brother, in such an intimate betrayal? "I cannot believe this is happening," Ethan murmured to himself, his voice cracking under the weight of anguish. The image of the two of them together in compromising photos replayed in his mind like a haunting movie reel, the laughter and affection they shared now poisoned by the dark reality hidden within the shadows of their lives. He was not just grappling with the reality of infidelity, he was now entangled in a web that linked his worst fear, his brother, into the very fabric of his family. Gathering his strength, he reached for the phone and dialed Olivia. The confrontation had to be immediate, raw, and honest. When she answered, her voice was tinged with a hint of panic, and rightly so. Ethan Sepp's tone was chillingly calm as he stated, "Olivia, we need to talk now." She arrived home moments later, tearing into the room with a mixture of distress and determination. Ethan Sepp's gaze bore into her, a silent accusation wrapped in a desperate quest for understanding. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice steady yet shaking. "Are you and Leo together?" In that moment, Olivia Sepp's expression shifted, crumbling the fragile facade she had built. "I was going to tell you," she stammered, rushing to explain. "It was a mistake, Ethan. It was never supposed to happen. It just did." Ethan felt a surge of light-headed disbelief wash over him. The weight of her betrayal pinned him to the floor. "A mistake? Olivia, you entered into his web when our son was barely 2 years old. How many times did you lie to me about where you were? How many times did you hide this?" The accusatory silence hung between them, a chasm too wide to bridge. As Olivia's explanations tumbled out, Ethan could not help but feel as if he was standing on the precipice of a nightmare. He forced himself to breathe deeply. "What I need from you is honesty. I need the truth about Caleb," he said, his voice devoid of the emotion swirling within him. Her eyes glistened with tears, yet she could not hide the self-preservation instinct that flickered beneath the surface. "Caleb is yours, Ethan. I love you and I want our family together," she pleaded, grasping for him in desperation. But the evidence lay before him, an unrelenting reminder of the past he had never fully escaped, a betrayal entwined within a fragile family home. "You had to have known this could ruin everything, right?" Ethan's calm demeanor cracked, revealing an anguished heart at the corner of betrayal. "You let Leo back in, after everything." The reality of her continuation of that connection became a razor-sharp pain that gnawed at Ethan's sense of self. He felt his mind racing as memories flooded in. Leo's constant antics, How easily things turned toxic, the seemingly innocent mistakes that spiraled into devastation. Was his brother's shadow never to leave his life? I had hoped he had changed. I thought, I thought it could be fixed, Olivia said, her voice breaking. But nothing was ever truly fixed. I am sorry, Ethan. This moment of confession could not erase the specter of betrayal that hovered between them, casting dark shadows over memories they had built. The ache within him transformed into something uncontrollable. You violated our trust, and my brother has stolen my family, Ethan whispered, the realization hitting him with the weight of 1,000 crushing waves. Now I need to confront Leo. This needed to be done with cold clarity, for his own sanity and future. He wanted accountability, both for himself and for the family he had nurtured. He orchestrated a somber family meeting, inviting both Richard and Eleanor to their home, a stage for the confrontation. Ethan's heart raced with trepidation as he prepared the evidence that would lay bare the truth behind a wall of lies and deceit. The atmosphere was heavy, tension simmering in the air as his family gathered. I have something important to share, he began, maintaining an unnatural calm that felt foreign to him. With each piece of evidence he presented, he felt a mild satisfaction tinged with the hollow ache of betrayal. He watched his mother's face contort with confusion and pain, that picture-perfect family image shattered in an instant. When he placed Leo's name on speakerphone, the gulf between pride and shame resonated through the call. What do you have to say for yourself? He demanded, leveling the phone at the speaker with fierce tenacity. As Leo's voice dripped with contempt, Ethan felt the rage bubbling just beneath the surface. You think I care what you think? Do you think you can dictate to me and turn this back on me, Ethan? Every word from his brother fueled the fire inside him. Richard was far from the stoic figure he had always been. Anger radiated off him as he confronted Leo with uncharacteristic fury, declaring, "This is no longer about brotherly mischief. You are no longer part of this family." With every word exchanged, Ethan felt the walls around his life thickening, a deliberate separation forming between him and the toxic thread that bound him to his brother. He was casting off the burden of guilt that had shadowed him for far too long. But with this newfound strength came a chilling realization: the ties to his past would haunt him long after this moment. In the weeks that followed, the reverberations of that confrontation spiraled through their family. Richard's rightful wrath led to Leo's swift disownment, and Ethan found solace in the distance created by severed ties from a shared past. But as painful as it was to admit, Leo was a part of the history they all shared, which meant the hurt would continue to linger. As Ethan started to piece together the remnants of his life and reclaim the narrative he had once lost, the echoes of betrayal had only begun to shape who he was becoming, a man fortified by divesting himself from the lies, learning to support those he loved unconditionally, even as the threads of dark familial ties receded into the shadows of his past. This was no longer just about the heartbreak inflicted by a brother's betrayal. This was about his own awakening, a powerful reminder that healing is a journey forged through confrontation, honesty, and ultimately, forgiveness, albeit not always for those who betray. Thank you for joining me on this deeply emotional journey into the complexities of family, betrayal, and the arduous road to self-discovery. If you found value in Ethan's story, please give this video a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insights matter and contribute to this growing community. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel for more stories exploring the deepest facets of human experience. Hit the notification bell to ensure you never miss an episode as we continue to uncover the layers of our narratives. Until next time, let us remember that even in the darkest moments, redemption and understanding can pave the way to healing. See you in the next video.